Hi, today's video is about weathering the storm. Hi, I'm Nile Harris, a life strategist, business consultant, and speaker working with transitioning and growing entrepreneurs to pursue their passion with a plan by gaining clarity, setting goals, and getting things done. In today's video, I'm talking about ways that we can weather the storm of life. But before we get started, I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel, turn on the alerts so you know when I post new content, and join me and engage with me in conversation and discussions at I'm Nile Harris on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And you can also catch me on LinkedIn. So I want to talk about today how to weather the storm. And this is right now on the forefront of everybody's mind as we battle the coronavirus, COVID-19. Small businesses are disappearing, people are out of work, and we are trapped in our homes. I don't know about you, but I'm actually, I go into one of the rooms, guest room, and I vacation in my guest room just because it's not a room that I spend a lot of time in. So I find myself going into other parts of the house, even if it's, the same room, I sit in a different part of the room to kind of help me change my scenery and help me change my perspective. And I want to use this time to talk about what are some of the things that we could be doing to weather the storm or resilience or grit or whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of resources out there right now that are helping us to meditate and think through things. And a lot of celebrities or singers or artists are online providing free concerts or meditation sessions, yoga sessions, free fitness sessions so that we can stay fit and healthy in our homes, ways to breathe, do yoga so we can stay mentally and emotionally happy. And there's something though that I want to talk about, and I have a concern that through all of these very helpful tips and tricks that have their place, one of the things that we're not talking about, and I think is key to weathering a storm or is key to having grit or resilience, is acknowledging our fear or acknowledging that pit in our stomach, that anxiety, because that really is the way to move through it. And meditation or exercise or talking to someone, connecting with someone are ways to help us work through and deal with that anxiety. But we also have to acknowledge it first. And I want to say too, I almost feel there's some, I don't know if shaming is too strong of a word, but I'm going to use it here. Maybe I'll use a different word later. But in the good intention of helping us deal with our feelings and anxiety and fears and health crises and loneliness and separation, in the good intention of dealing with that and teaching us how to deal with those things productively, I feel like something has been lost. And that is, it is okay to feel how you're feeling. And two, it's okay to cry. It's actually therapeutic to cry. And I almost feel like sometimes that we either that's my interpretation or my perspective, but I feel that at times we're sort of being coached or guided or led to being stoic, right? No, you don't want to shove these feelings down. We have to put on a brave face through, for our families, but how we lead our families through this is important. Showing emotions, especially to kids, seeing that adults have emotions too will help them be able to process and have their own emotions and process those emotions in a very positive way. And so I want to talk about two things that I think are absolutely healthy to do, which is, the act of crying and also the physical act of movement, and then also screaming. So giving voice to our anxiety in a way that can be productive. So let's talk about crying. I believe that humans are the only animals, or at least it's thought that humans are the only animals that cry because of emotion. Now, we already have tears, and tears are there to keep our eyeballs moist and clean and clear of debris, as it is with most animals. But for us as humans, if we feel sad or we get hurt, or we will cry in response to emotional stimulus. This is very interesting. But crying, the act of crying, can also bring about relaxation. And I know that sounds weird. So when I was young, I'd say when I was in middle school, maybe 12, 13, actually starting younger than that. But when I was younger, I would watch these depressing TV shows and movies just to cry. And I think two of my favorites were China Beach and 30 something. Now, I was 12 or 13 or 14 watching these shows, and I would just sit there and bawl. And then after the show was over, I'd get up, turn it off, and go do homework or go do whatever I was going to go do. And eventually my parents asked me about this, and they were understandably concerned that I would plop myself down in front of what they called these depressing ass grown-up shows, bawl, and then get up and go on about my business. And they asked me if I was okay, if I wanted to talk, and I said, yeah, I just like to cry and release tension. And there is actually research that suggests that the act of crying triggers or activates the part of the nervous system that is involuntary. And it actually, this part of the nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, is actually responsible for sort of relaxing the body, if you will, at a very general level. So when this parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS, is activated, it can cause our heart rate to slow, it can cause muscles to relax, and crying might actually trigger this. So if you think about it, if you've ever cried really hard for some period of time, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, then when you are coming toward the end of that crying and you kind of release and you feel your body kind of go limp, and you think it's just mere exhaustion, either physical exhaustion or emotional and mental exhaustion from the crying or whatever caused the crying, that's part of it. But part of it is also the release. Your body has signaled to itself to release tension. So that's actually a good part of crying. The other belief that this research indicated that crying may also release oxytocin and endorphins, which are the happiness biochemicals that in our bodies. And it actually, feeling bad brings about crying, and crying brings about potentially feeling better. So if you want to cry, if you feel like you have to cry, don't hold that back. First of all, you don't want to just shove down your feelings. That's not productive for you or anyone around you. But crying gets it up, gets it out. You acknowledge why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And you can still meditate, and you can still go for a run, you can still do all of those things, but it's connected. Second, screaming. I'm not necessarily prone to screaming, but I have been known to do it every once in a while. Grab a pillow. I tend to get into a car and maybe go to a parking lot, turn up the music a little bit and let it out. But the act of screaming can also help to release tension. It actually also, research indicates that this might be also good at activating that PNS, or that parasympathetic system, and it also could potentially release some of those oxytocin and endorphins, but it just pushes the emotion out of you. So don't just walk around screaming because you don't want to alert and alarm your neighbors or alert and alarm somebody else and have them call the police. A good thing to do is scream into a pillow, as I said before, turn up a little bit of music, or you could do scream singing. And if you're from the 80s, like I am, you remember some of those 80s bands would kind of scream sing, and I guess some still do it now, but like Nirvana or some other group, where I would love to like turn up the music and just sing it but scream it at the same time. And then that way no one thinks you're being murdered. They just think you're not a good singer. So scream sing is also another way to let that out. But you want to be able to just physically let the sound out, get that tension out of you, and then meditate, or if you still want to. And the third thing is, I grew up playing sports. So moving and getting physical, and not just walking or running, but some contact, preferably with a punching bag or a speed bag or something like that. You don't want to go around hitting other people. We want to keep this productive. This is why right now we can't play contact sports, but contact sports is great. I played soccer. I liked also playing football. I liked team sports. I liked the collaboration and the act of being on the field and working together to achieve a goal. But I also really just like the physicality of being able to crash into people, kick the ball, because for me, it's the transfer of energy. It's the transfer of that anger. So one of the things, and this is really good if you like to hit golf balls, like hit baseballs or things like that. People who play those sports will tell you, and this is one of the reasons that I love to like kick the soccer balls. Imagine that the ball that you're gonna hit or kick, or if you're golfing, imagine that the ball is someone or something that is bringing you anxiety or bringing you anger, and visualize. So this is a great way to both visualize and physically get into that vision and release that tension. Punching bag, envision the punching bag as coronavirus, or envision it as job loss, envision it as whatever is bringing you anger, and you're going to physically beat that bag or hit that baseball, kick that soccer ball, to transfer that anger or that anxiety or that fear into that object, and then it's moving away from you, right? And so that object now embodies whatever you're angry about, and after you hit it or kick it or throw it, it's moving away from you. And that also helps you with the visual of getting it away from you. So those are three things. And when we think about weathering the storm, and it is important to meditate, and it is important to still get that exercise and still have those connections, but also know that even though people aren't talking about it, because I feel like I don't hear people say this a lot, it's okay to cry. It is absolutely okay to cry. Go, I don't know if you can find China Beach, or if you can find 30 something. Like I said, those were my two go-to shows. A show, This Is Us, the first season of This Is Us. That was a real tearjerker. Some sad movies out there, but find something where you can sort of get lost in the story and you just release it. And that's perfectly fine. It's good. The other thing, scream. Scream into a pillow, scream, go to a parking lot, scream to the car, or scream sing. Then find a particular group. I suggest looking at some of the 80s, 90s hair bands. They love to scream and sing. And lastly is getting physical with your with visualization. So if it's a soccer ball, if it's a baseball, whatever it is, preferably you're by yourself or with other members of your family, but visualize whatever it is that's upsetting you. Physically make contact with that thing, transfer the energy, send it away from you, and we'll get through this together. But don't forget that there are other ways that are perfectly acceptable. However you feel in this time is perfectly acceptable, and everybody has good intentions in sharing. But if you need something more than meditation, if you need something more than just connecting or just getting some exercise in or a walk in, what you need to do within reason to release this anxiety is good for you. So that's it. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on the alerts, and I look forward to continuing our conversation. And I'm Nile Harris at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or on LinkedIn at Nile Harris.